Hello my dear student, welcome back to online class. In the last video we discussed about the first unit of economic thought, that is classical and pre-classical economic thought. So today we discuss a continued part of this chapter. So let us discuss about first Adam Smith. Adam Smith is called as a father of economics. He was born on 1723 June 5th at Scotland. His masterpiece, that is An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nation in the year of 1766, who became a famous his book, that is The Wealth of Nation. So the social philosophy of Adam Smith. First one is naturalism and optimism. Naturalism denotes the spontaneous and natural origin of economic institution, while optimism refers to belief that economic institutions so created were beneficial in these effects. Wealth of nation of concept of naturalism is combined with the optimism. Second one is invisible hand theory. It is a term coined by the Adam Smith in his book An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nation. One of the greatest contribution of Adam Smith was invisible hand. Next, laissez-faire. Laissez-faire describes as economic system in which there is minimum intervention from government and regulation. So these are all the social philosophy of Adam Smith. Next, economic ideas. First one is division of labor. According to Adam Smith, division of labor is selection of the part of work by an individual which suit to him or her the best. He considered it is a sort of social cooperation of economic efforts designed to produce the national dividend. So, for example, pin making industry. One man drawn out the another straight, third one is cut it, and fourth point it, and fifth grind it at the top of receiving the head. Two makes the heads require two or three distinct function. To put it on, it's a particular business and important business of making pin. As this manner dividend into the different operation. So next, impact of division labor. So Smith has shown both the merits and defects of individual or division of labor. He has identified following five advantages. First one is increasing labor skill and increase the productivity, saving the time and specialization, opportunity for innovation and invention, and also increase the quantity of a production with a decreased cost. So these are all the advantage of division labor. So let us see the defects of division of labor. Work becomes monotonous and boring. It is creates the feelings of cultural alienation, and it responsible for a mental stagnation, and also it stop the mobility of labor. So this is the defects and limitation of division of labor. The nature of occupation and the extent of market and also quantity of capital is available. So next, theory of value. Adam Smith's theory of value essentially is a labor theory of value. It may be presented as follows. The labor is invariable measures of value, and the value is determined by the labor embodied in a commodity in a primitive society, and cost of production is a natural value of commodity. Adam Smith considered labor as a most important factor which increased the wealth of nation. According to Adam Smith, the annual labor of a very nation is a fund which originally supplies it is all the necessities and convenience of life, which it annually consumes, and which consists always either in the immediate produce of a labor or in what is purchased with that produce from other nation. So next, use value and exchange value. According to Adam Smith, the value of any commodity, therefore the person who process it and who means not use or consume it himself, but to exchange it for other commodities equal to the quantity of labor which enable him a purchase or command. It is called as used value or exchange value. Labor cost and labor commodity. Adam Smith has developed the labor cost theory and labor command theory side by side. Labor cost refers to unit of labor required to the produce a commodity. It is called as labor command. And normal and market values. Normal value is the long run equilibrium price. It is decided by the cost of production. The actual price prevailing in a market is market value. So next, international trade. Adam Smith considered international trade as the extension of division of labor internationally. He supported free trade. According to him, free trade always pay an individual as well as nation to do that what it can do best. This can only be possible in a competitive condition. That is, free market or free exchange of commodity is a uh, natural working of competitive mechanism, and free trade witness the market and facilities and extensive application of division of labor, and free exchange of goods promotes industries and commerce and increase the aggregate wealth of the country. Next, absolute advantage theory. Adam Smith's theory of international trade is called as absolute advantage theory. According to Smith, trade occurs between two countries if one of them has an absolute cost advantage in the production of one commodity and another commodities has cost advantage in a production of other. Free international trade promotes international division of labor, and also free trade brings about an optimum allocation of productive resource of the world, and trade between countries arise to the absolute advantage in a cost of production, and countries export goods in which they have absolute cost disadvantage. So here we can see absolute advantage theory will illustrate it with the help of example. So there are two countries, that is England and Portugal, and they are produced two goods like wine and cotton. The production capacity of one of labor each country is shown on the table 1. Production of 1 unit of labor per day. So here we can see the table production. There are two products, one is cotton and wine, and there are two countries, that is England and Portugal. So in England, 1 unit of labor can produce 25 balls of cotton and 20 barrels of wine per day. In Portugal, 1 unit of labor can produce 15 balls of cotton and 30 barrels of wine per day. England has absolute advantage in production of cotton over the Portugal. Portugal has absolute advantage in a production of wine over the England. This is the position before trade. Now, both the countries realized their respectively position and tried to specialize in the production of goods in which they have absolute advantage. England will be specialized in the production of cotton in which it has an absolute cost advantage. Portugal will specialize in the production of wine in which it has absolute cost advantage. So, now the position will be also follows table 2, production of 2 units of labor per day. So here also two production and two countries, that is England and Portugal, and production also same cotton and wine. Now trade will be a beneficial to both the countries. Before specialization, both the countries were producing a total of 40 balls of cotton and 50 barrels of wine. Now, England alone produced 50 balls of cotton and Portugal alone produced 60 barrels of wine. England specialized in the production of cotton, export it to the Portugal and import wine from the Portugal. Similarly, Portugal specialized in the production of wine, export into the England and import cotton from the England. Thus, absolute cost advantage is responsible for the international trade. Next, theory of distribution. Adam Smith never concerned with the share of rent, wage, and profits in a nation production. Instead, he was concerned with the determination of rent, wage, and profit. According to him, rent is monopoly price decided by the bounty of nature, bargains between the labor and capital, decided the wage. Profit depends on the size of capital stock. So, theory of rent. According to Adam Smith, the rent of land is a price paid for use of land is naturally a monopoly price. So here so many ideas on rent are followed. First one is rent is a monopoly price decided by the bounty of nature. Rent is affected both by the fertility and situation, and rent arises become because of the use of land. In his opinion, rent may be considered as a produce of those power of nature, the use of which the landlord lent to the farmer. So next, the theory of wages. Smith has developed the wage fund theory and demand and supply theory of wage. Wage fund theory fixed the upper limit of wage. According to him, the demand for those who live by the wage, it is evident, cannot increase by the proportion to the increase of fund, which are to the pay of wage. Identify the following five factors as determined as difference in money. First one, agreeableness of employment, the cost of learning the skill, the trust respondent in the workman, and the probability of success. So next, interest and profit. He has made no distinction between the internet and profit. So he treated interest as a part of profit. So according to him, interest is a compensation which are borrowing paid to the lender for the profit which he an opportunity of making by the use of money. Adam Smith's ideas on profit and interest may be summarized follows. That is, profit include interest in the reward for capital, and more the stock of capital, less will be the profit, and profit is determined by the stock of capital, and increased stock of capital increase the competition among the investors. Profit and wage moves in a different direction. Next, public finance. According to Adam Smith, public finance is needed for meeting up out the responsibility of a state. His idea on public finance are followed. State should adhere to the balanced budget in which public revenue is equal to the public expenditure, and state should follows a laissez-faire policy, so it should be minimum the public expenditure. And also there are two sources of public revenue. One is fund land and capital, and second one is taxes. Tax imposition should be guided by the four canons, that is ability, certainty, convenience, and economy. So next, canon of ability. So canon are the rules of goods tax system. So canon of ability consider ability or income as a for imposition of tax. It is based on canon of taxation. It implies of a canon of ability are followed. First one is the state protect the individual and encouraging him and earn an income, and the individual should support the state by the paying the tax. Third, tax should be laid according to the ability or income of an individual. This canon is also known as principle of ability or equality. Next, canon of certainty. According to the canon, there should be any confusions in a tax payee about the amount of tax to be paid, date of payment, and authority of whom the tax to paid. The implication of canon of certainty are the following. The taxpayer should have a clear-cut idea about tax. There should not be any obligation in a tax imposition and collection. Tax imposition should not be a arbitrary action, and all the procedure related to tax imposition and collection should be transferred. Next, canon of convenience. According to this canon, tax paying late and method should be determined by the considering the convenience of a taxpayer. The following canon of convenience are followed. Convenience of tax pay should be the consideration which collecting the tax, and amount of tax should be convenient to the contributor, and the data or time of collection of tax should be a convenient of payer. In case of agriculture, the harvesting time is most convenient. Tax from a salary earned should be collected in the first week of month. Next, canon of economy. This canon says that the cost of tax collection or administration should be a minimum, as stated by Adam Smith. Every tax ought to be so contrivant as both to take out and keep out the pocket of peoples as little as possible over and above what it brings into the public treasury of a state. Implication of canon of economic are followed. There should be a economic in a tax administration, and cost of tax collection should be a minimum, and the following of revenue to the exchange should be a maximum, and the administration should be ensure a surplus in a revenue collection. Adam Smith canon of taxation are four pillars of a modern. Next, we discuss about the another classical economist, that is David Ricardo. David Ricardo was born on 1772 in England. He came across Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations when he was 27. It was another turning point of his life. Ricardo is known as for his pamphlets, his masterpiece, that Principle of Political Economic and Taxation, was appeared in the year of 1817. Here we analyze Ricardo's ideas on value, trade, and distribution. So, labor theory of value. The main achievement of Ricardo is the found in a theory of values and distribution. David Ricardo has developed a pure laborer cost theory of value. Labor is a foundation, source, and substitution of value. Labor is a cause of change in a absolute and relative values, and labor is a closest approximation to the measure of value, and labor serves as an ethical and socio-economic justification of price, and labor interrelative economic value and technology. David Ricardo has drawn a distinction between the natural values and market values. Market values is a short run price decided by demand and supply forces. Natural value is a long run price decided by the cost of production. So, next, there is a difference between the value theory of Smith and Ricardo. So, under the Smith theory, labor is a main determination of value, and labor can be converted into the capital, and also labor is a measure of value. Rent include in a value, importance to labor command, and importance to the absolute labor cost. Under the Ricardo's theory of value, labor is a sole determinant of value. Labor cannot be converted into the capital. Money is measure of value. Rent does not include in a value. And importance of labor power, importance to the relative labor cost. So next, comparative cost advantage theory. The comparative cost advantage is one of the greatest contribution of David Ricardo. It consider comparative or relative cost advantage a foundation of international trade. According to Bahman, in this world, the principle of comparative cost point out that two countries will begin by specialization and trade, providing that each has a comparative advantage lower the comparative cost in a commodity is exports. According to Ricardo's theory, comparative cost advantage is a basic of trade. A country produce and export such goods in which it has the comparative cost advantage theory. So let us he illustrated his theory. David Ricardo's give an example. Here also there are two countries, that is Portugal and England, and produce two commodities, that is wine and cloth. So laborer need to produce a unit of wine and cloth. So there are two countries, that is Portugal and England, two products like wine and cloth. So Portugal has absolute cost advantage in a production of both the commodities. If both the goods are produced by Portugal, the England has been nothing to offer in exchange of Portugal. Relative cost advantage is to be taken into the account, like here Portugal produce wine 80 and England produce 120. So it is greater than 90 divided by 100. This comparison reveals the advantage Portugal possesses in a production of wine over the England. So Portugal produce wine and England specialized in a production. The relative position are shown in a next table, that is table 2. So relative position after the specialization. So, Ricardo's theory shows an overall reduction of labor cost. In the absence of Portugal was using 170 units of labor to produce one each units of wine and cloth. Now, uses of 160 labor units produce only wine and save 10 units of labor. Before trade, England was employing 220 units of labor, but produced both the commodities. Now it's produced only cloth and employs are 200 labors units and saves 20 units of labor. So, due to the specialization, a total of 30 labor units are saved in the relative position after the specialization in Portugal and England. So next, limitation of comparative cost. It assumes performs perfect computation and constant cost of production. It does not consider only labor cost and ignored other cost, and it consider the transport cost, and it is very simple two nation two commodities model. So next, theory of distribution. Ricardo summed up his theory of distribution in this word: profit depends on high or low wages, wage on the price of necessities, the price of necessaries chiefly on the price of food. Profit depends on the price of necessaries. Wage depends on the price of necessities, and price of necessaries depends on the price of foods, and the remainder goes as profit. In the long run, price of food become equal to the wage. So here we can see the diagram. Here OY axis representing factor price and OX axis representing factor. So price is like that, RPW, it is known as R is rent, P is profit, W is representing wage, and factors like L. So total production of land is distributed between the rent, wage and profit. Here AP is representing the average production, while MP shows the marginal product. The difference between the AP and MP is rent. It is represented by PRSW. It is in the shape of rectangle. Wage is shown by the OWKL. It is also in the shape of rectangle. It equal to substitution level. Profit and remainder is shown by the WPMK. It is also in the shape of rectangle. Ricardo's theory of distribution, there are some weaknesses. So that is assumption of law of diminutional marginal returns and assumptions of perfect competition and full employment, negligence of microanalysis, and depends on the Malthus theory of population. So next, theory of rent. Rent is a portion of produce of earth which is paid to the landlord for the use of original and indestructible power of a soil. Rent arises in a long run while all types of lands are cultivated. Rent is a differential surplus between more fertility land and less fertility land. Population goes on increasing, but food production does not respond to equal. So next, theory of wage. Labor has two prices: the natural price, that is wage, and market price is wage. Natural wage depends on the price of necessity of life needed by the laborers and his family. Market wage depends on the demand for the labor and supply of labor. When market wage extended, the nature wage and number of workers population increased. Poverty and misery decreased the number of workers. In the long run, wage rest and substances level. Next, theory of profit. Profit consider the interest and entrepreneurs gain. The rate interest depends upon the rate of profit. Profit is a income receiving by the entrepreneurs depends on the wage. Profit and wage move in the different direction, and profit has a natural tendency of fall. In the long run, it reaches in zero. It has successful in the conflict of interest existing in the landlord and tenants. So next we move on to the another classical economist, that is Thomas Robert Malthus. Thomas Robert Malthus is known as a father of modern demography. He was the co-founder of economic classical school. J.M. Keynes called his as first of the Cambridge economists. Malthus was born in the Rockery, England of February in the year of 1776. His work, an essay on the principle of population, that is in the year of 1789. Principle of political economy, that in the year of 1820. So, theory of population. This theory immortalized the name of T.R. Malthus. It established a relationship between the population and food. According to this theory, population increased at a faster rate than food supply, and it is population which is responsible for all human miseries. There are assumptions in the theory of population. First one is food of necessary to the existence of human beings, and the passion between the sexes and the inevitable. So next, on the basic assumption, the theory of population, Malthus tried to build a theory which may be explained as follows. First, in food control population. As stated by Malthus, food is necessary for the human survival. Population is necessarily limited by food. Second one is population increase more than the means of substitutions. Population increase in a biological factor. It is based on a inevitable, unlimited passions between the gender. Next, natural intervention. There are two checks to maintaining a balance between the population and food: preventive and positive checks. First one is preventive checks. At the self effort of human beings to restrict their numbers, they may take two forms. First, moral restraints, such as marriage, practicing celibacy, self control of after the marriage, postponement of marriage, etc. These are all come under the moral restraints. Second one is violence, like sexual intercourse that do not result in a pregnancy, they including professional prostitution, promissions, intercourse, etc. And second one is positive checks are the action of a nature to maintain at balance between the population and food. So, misery of human origin, such as wars, civil wars, and extreme poverty, low standard, these are all come under the misery of human origin. Second, natural calamities, such as famines, earthquakes, storms, cyclones, etc. These are all come under the natural calamities. So, these are two checks of maintaining balance between the population and food. So, next, criticisms of this theory: assumption of operation of law of diminishing returns, and relationship between the population and means of substitutions, and assumption of positive correlationship between the food and population increased, and negligence of the increasing of goods labor total output, and consideration of only of agriculture production, and over stress on a moral restraints, and false correlations between the population and natural calamities. So there are some signification of this theory. It attempts to show the problems of overpopulation. It stress on a natural cultivations where artificial inputs have no places, and it also stress on a simple living with the self-control, and it tried no explain the necessity of maintaining a balance between the population and food supply. So, next theory is the theory of market goods. Theory is also known as overproduction or under consumption theory. It explains the possibility of overproduction in a free economy when warranted consumption lie much higher than the actual consumption. So, the economic does not work automatically. When supply exceeds the demand, there will be a glut of goods. Lack of effectual demand result in under the consumption and leads to unemployment. And to solve these problems, an attempt to raise effectual demand requires. So, the theory market grid may be illustrated by the diagram. The here we can see the OY axis representing production and O X axis representing the labor unit. So OP is the amount produced by usually OL amount of labor. WC is a warranted consumption, and actually consumption lags for behind the warrant consumption. The lag shows by RPMN in the rectangle. It representing glut of goods or under the consumption. To solve this problem, effectual demand should be increased. So there are some implication of this theory. First one is it increasing the capitalistic demand for a luxury, and increase workers demand by increasing the wage, and also increasing the consumption expenditure on the landlord, and increasing the consumption expenditure of the government. So thank you, student.